Reading with your kids.
Hola, ni hao, konnichiwa, assalamu alaikum, shalom, mahaba, moni moli wanji, namaste, jambo, bienvenidos. Hi, my name is Jedley, and this is the Reading with Your Kids podcast. We are coming to you from the beautiful neighborhood of Reedville in the southwest corner of Boston, Massachusetts. We are so delighted and so very honored that you are joining us in our mission to help families grow closer through reading. Please be sure to subscribe to the show on the iHeartRadio app, on Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. We have an amazing show. Later, we'll be hearing a preview of the Solve It for Kids podcast. But first, our guest is Argyro Graphy, here to celebrate the Adventures of Bentley. Before we invite Argyro into the studio to celebrate the Adventures of Bentley, we want to ask you to be a little bit adventurous and be sure to connect with us on social media. Facebook.com/readingwithyourkids, at Reading With Your Kids on Instagram, at Jedley Magic on Twitter. Check out our Reading With Your Kids page on Pinterest. And of course, you can visit our website, readingwithyourkids.com, sign up for our free newsletter, and you can also use the contact button to get in touch with us. Send us a message. Let us know what you like about the show, what we can do to make it better. Also, you can suggest who we might have as a guest on the podcast. You can do that all at readingwithyourkids.com. Joining us right now from one of my favorite cities in the whole world, and if you have never visited Toronto, Ontario in Canada, do yourself a favor and get there. It is fabulous. Probably not in December or January, but it is a fabulous city. And that is where our guest is coming to us from. She's here to celebrate her Adventures of Bentley series. Please welcome to the show, Argyro Graphy. Hey, Argyro, how are you?
I am very well. Thank you very much for having me.
I'm excited to have you on. I do have so many pleasant memories of visits to Toronto. It is such a diverse city. So diverse.
That it is.
And Canada, of course, is just a beautiful nation, and the people are, as we say here in Boston, they're so wicked polite.
Well,
friendly.
That's one thing that, yes, we're very proud of. Now, as far as visiting, if you'd like to visit now, we have been hit with snow, so you're more than welcome. Just bring a shovel.
Well, we don't need to shovel any snow right now to sit down and talk about the Adventures of Bentley. Tell us about this. I understand Bentley is a hippo.
Yes. He's a hippo with cool red running shoes.
Cool red running shoes. All right. Tell us all about Bentley.
So Bentley was a little character that I doodled when I was younger, and actually I continued on, but I never really, he didn't transform into a hippo until later on. My background was that I had a few issues with bullying and stuff. And so I kept silent, and I always wanted to write and mainly illustrate for kids. So I was always doodling. And so as the years went on, the flashbacks kept coming back and, wanting to write books and doing whatever. And I kept referencing this little fella that I kept repeating over and over and over. And originally he started off as a cow. And because he had, instead of the wide snout, he had that narrow. But then I thought, okay, so the years have gone by. I've, excelled at all the positions that I held throughout, my working career. But I still wanted to write or at least illustrate. At this point now, I didn't have the literary education. So I thought, how am I going to teach kids lessons if I haven't taken formal training? And I looked one day at this little character and I thought, that's who's going to teach. And that's how, so I had somebody tweak them. I did the main sketch and whatnot. So they kind of fine tuned, because I don't know how to do digital art. I can draw, but I don't know how to deal with all these apps and programs and whatnot. And so I had somebody tweak him. And when I looked at it, I thought, okay, he needs something to identify him. And we threw on some red shoes.
Awesome.
And voila, Bentley was born.
Ah, that's fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I want to get to know Bentley a little bit better and find out some of his adventures. But I don't I want to make sure we talk a little bit. It sounds, you mentioned that you were bullied and that these memories kept coming back. It sounds like you were really traumatized and,
yeah. And I kept silent, and that was the problem. And so when you keep silent, and I turned to humor to mask the pain and, those memories, and I kept hoping that they would go away. And so I would be fine for a little bit. And, my childhood actually, we grew up and I blessed. I'm very blessed. But I would have those flashbacks, but they were things that I dealt with on my own. So when you don't speak, you get these scars, and these scars are forever scars. Sometimes these flashbacks would pop into my head. Sometimes they would just, stay in the background. But the self-doubt and, the low self-esteem, once you hit those levels, then, you start a downward spiral. And so I kept getting this image of me doing something with children's books. But every time I built up the courage to do it, a flashback would automatically, something would trigger it. And, back I went to when I was younger and those memories. And it was just a very negative place to be in, a very dark place to be in. So I wanted to make sure that kids, voiced their opinion. I wanted to give them a voice. And it wasn't until later on in life that one of my friends, her 6-year-old daughter, went to see a psychiatrist because she was bullied. And I thought, that is just way too young, to see a therapist. It's way too young. And I thought, here it is, we're 40 years later from when I wanted to write children's books. And this is still happening, and it's happening more and more. And that was the trigger point for me. And I thought, that's it. I have to do something. I have to now find my voice, and not per se, I would speak, doing my job, but my voice for standing up for people that, kept silent, to encourage them not to stay silent. That it's funny when it happens, the bullies will laugh at you and stuff, but they don't realize the scars that it actually creates.
Yeah. Was there anything that, and I'm sure your parents loved you and wanted the best for you, but as you said, you stayed silent. My son went through something similar in 6th grade, and it's ironic because I was out doing anti-bullying magic shows in schools all around the country, and meanwhile, my son was a target of bullying in his middle school, and we were seeing things, and I was asking, everything okay? Yeah, everything's fine. You sure? You getting? Yeah, everything's fine. Everything wasn't fine. Thankfully, in that case, there was a girl in the 8th grade that I had taught some magic to. She saw what was happening to my son. He was a couple of years younger than her. She came to me and, said something. And that way, when my son got home, we were able to, talk a little bit more, and I had more information. The message came out, and we were able to intervene, and the school was very responsive. Was there anything that your parents could have done to make it easier for you? Or is there something that maybe they miss? And I'm just saying this not to find fault with your parents, but just
right.
As parents listening, maybe they might see something that's going on in their kids, and that will give them the inspiration to investigate a little bit further.
No, and like I said, I did keep quiet. Mm-hmm. There was one person that knew about it, and I just went and I begged them, and I said, please don't say anything, because I don't want anybody to get into trouble. And I was also that type of person that even though you were the one that bullied me, I don't want you to get into trouble. That's just, that's just my nature. That's how, I don't want to cause trouble. I don't want to, and so, and because I turned to humor, I would always try to catch myself in the downward spiral and, throw a joke or throw a comment and so I would deflect, and change topics. So no, they weren't aware of any of it. The other thing too is, new immigrants into Canada, when I was younger and stuff, they were so, they wanted to make sure that, they provided for their family. Both my parents worked. So they weren't as active, I don't think, the way parents are now, that some of them that either get so involved with their kids. Some work from home. So my parents didn't. My parents worked very long hours. So no, they didn't know about it. So, I can't turn around and say that. Could they have done anything different if I would have opened my mouth? Maybe.
Yeah. Well, hopefully the one thing people listening can take from this is just to let their kids know, if they know that somebody in their class is being hurt, to speak up for that child, even if the child says, "Please, I don't want anybody to get in trouble."
Exactly.
Ignore that. Speak up. Get some help. So, help us understand what kind of adventures Bentley has.
So, Bentley, actually, at the start of my journey, I wrote one book and I thought, okay, I built up the courage. I was going to write my first book. I did it. It was fine. It was moving forward. And I thought, I fulfilled my dream. So there really isn't much more to, I did what I wanted to do. I was hit with a life-altering trauma where I had an eye injection done and to one of my eyes, and I woke up blind. So I am now legally blind in my one eye. And so I thought, here we go again. I'm victimized again. It took me how long to get over the initial, the bullying and stuff, and now I've got to deal with this. So it was very hard for me, and I was actually really going to quit. And I received an email from a grandmother who read Bentley, and the first book is about sharing. And it's a little monkey that throws bananas, and he knocks, banana, he knocks Bentley in the head with a banana. He thinks that that's the way you share. So she wrote to me and said that she read it with their grandchild, and after the story, gave half of his orange to grandma and said, "Look, I'm sharing just like the monkey." So I thought, oh my God, this is one book and I've already touched somebody's life. Somebody, it resonated. Then I started getting, when are you writing the next book? And when are you writing the next book? And I thought to myself, okay, so if I'm here to tell people not to quit, what kind of role model am I going to be if I quit? Mm-hmm. And so I did it for the kids, and I did it for the message, and to make sure that, they are learning valuable lessons. Because to be honest with you, I've seen a shift where kids felt so entitled that they forgot the very values that I was raised upon. Mm-hmm. Kindness, respect, loyalty, friendship, proper manners rather. And so I wrote the second book, and the second book, I thought, okay, so I'm writing a second book, and I pushed through it. And a mother called me up and said to me that her son, after reading the book, admitted that he was bullied at school. Oh. She didn't know.
How did that make you feel?
I think, truthfully, I cried for 2 days.
Wow. To think that something that you wrote possibly spared a child from more trauma that you experienced and weren't able to get help for.
Yeah. And so when I lost my vision, I saw a shift in how people looked at me and how they treated me. And I thought, I haven't changed as a person. I have my struggles now, and I do. And every day is a challenge for me. It's been a little over 18 months now, and I'm still struggling. I thought, okay, so what I'm going to do is I am going to assign or create my characters and give them each a challenge. And so all 5 of my characters, so Bentley is visually impaired. So Bentley is me. He's visually impaired. Jackson, the little monkey, has ADHD. Daisy, the giraffe, has autism and she's hearing impaired. Toby, the shy little elephant, wears glasses, and he's the one that's bullied in book number 2. And he has diabetes and kidney issues. And then Marty, my little lion, has alopecia. And the reason I did this was hoping to normalize these conditions in the eyes of children.
Mm-hmm.
So that, just like we say, don't judge a book by its cover, why are we judging people? Why is it that now, because I have a lazy eye, that people are judging me because of my eye? When they don't get a chance to know me.
Mm-hmm.
The same thing when you see somebody in a wheelchair, you automatically judge because they're in a wheelchair, not knowing why they're in that wheelchair. And so I created my characters, my diverse characters, and each one has their challenge. I didn't reveal that they had their challenges in book 1 or 2 because I did it in book number 3, which is Inspiring Children to Never Give Up. And I did it on purpose so that children can see that these characters went through 2 adventures, even with their condition, and they were perfectly fine. So that, don't quit and continue on, push through.
Yeah. So very important. I created back in 1989. Wow, talk about a lifetime, a century ago, back in the last century. But I was working with kids with severe developmental disabilities. And these were kids who were 10 to 18 years old, but they weren't able to walk or talk or feed themselves, or really do much of anything. But one of the things, and I was hired because I was this goofy guy with a big outgoing personality, and they said, we need somebody to advocate for these kids to help them develop friendships with others. And we did it. We proved, and there were a lot of people who said it couldn't be done. A lot of people said it shouldn't be done. But we proved that these kids could develop friendships. And the school, it was really funny. We went to a school that was in the neighborhood. The school I was working at was in a hospital setting. And so we reached out to the closest public school to the hospital. And it turns out that it was the public school in the inner city with the most challenges, the most kids from drug-addicted homes, the most kids with parents in prison. And, people are like, these kids will never accept these kids with disabilities. And the opposite was true. They welcomed these kids with open arms once they discovered that they laugh, they cry, they like to read books, they like spending time with me, they smile when they see me. That was all it took. And so I'm so happy that you're continuing to spread that message.
Yeah, I created an ABC book, and right after the sketches were done, I approved them. The illustrator had a family emergency and had to abandon the project. But at this point, I've already introduced it. I've already announced that it's coming, etc. And a friend of mine said, I have an idea. Because I'm going the route of, the diverse characters, we connected with 2 kids that have autism and are hearing impaired. And they colored my ABC book. So my ABC book, it's called ABC Empower Me. It's colored. It's not illustrated by anybody. The outlines are, yes, it's drawn by an illustrator, but the colors and everything, it's done. And they were so worried that Bentley is 2 different colors of green. I didn't care.
Yeah.
This book is one of the most special books that I have ever, I hold it dear to my heart because of who colored it. So they feel honored and proud, and they were nervous. They didn't want to mess up my book. And I feel honored and proud because, they contributed to my book.
Yeah.
So, and I think I will do it again. I think I will, I may create other books and have, other children participate and complete the books.
That's wonderful. So there are 5 books in the series, correct?
Yes.
So tell us the titles. But from book 1 is?
So the first book is Inspiring Children to Share.
Okay.
Bentley has a dream of going to the moon, to the moon. So each book is read on its own. However, he eventually gets to book number 5. So book number 1 is Inspiring Children to Share. It's about obviously sharing. Book number 2 is what happens when the bully becomes the victim. So one of my characters, Toby the elephant, is bullied by Marty, actually, the lion. And he's not bullied because he's a bully. He is being bullied by Marty, who is provoked by other kids. So it's the peer pressure. That's book number 2. So it's Inspiring Children to Be Kind. The third one is Inspiring Children to Never Give Up. This is where I reveal that the characters all have their challenges because they run into a little girl who wants to give up. She's in the hospital. and they come up with a plan on how to cheer her up so that she doesn't give up and move forward. So that's inspiring children to never give up. Move into book number 4, which features Jackson the monkey, and now I'm starting to bring in their challenges. So this book is a little monkey with ADHD. He's silly, he's curious, and it's inspiring children to be patient. And then we move into the final one, which is inspiring children to accept each other, where Bentley finally gets to go to the moon, except all his friends are stopped. They're prevented from boarding the rocket ship because they're all different. Oh. And so the lesson is on, now accepting everybody. It doesn't matter, and it does review and say that, Jackson learned how to share, and, Toby was bullied, etc. So it does kind of do a little bit of a review of the other books. Yeah.
For a minute there, I was wondering if they couldn't get on the spaceship because they didn't have their COVID vaccines.
Yeah, that's it. The double dose. Yeah, and they're heading in the right. And if they go to the right side, they'll have to do their booster shots.
Well, we're really, we're joking about it. I'm just so happy that the border between our countries has now opened once again.
Finally.
Thankfully, it's took so long, and we're able to travel a little bit. Hopefully, we're seeing the light, and Omicron's not going to be all that bad, and we're going to see an end to this. But before we see an end to this, I know people are going to want to know where they can go to find out more about Bentley and find out more about you.
So all my books are on Amazon, and they're in other retailers as well. Chapters Indigo in Canada, Barnes & Noble in the U.S., but also on my website. So it's bentleythehippo.com. And you can sign up on my in Bentley's Club, which is the actual newsletter. I do monthly draws, so for my subscribers only. So anybody that subscribes is automatically entered in all my giveaways and contests. Now, if I open it up to other people, then they automatically have an entry. And other ones I just do specifically as a thank you for following and supporting Bentley. And that is on my website. I do have an online store, so you can purchase items because I have quite a few novelty items. A coin that is given to Julia, the little girl in book number 3, to never give up. It says, "You can do it." I actually sell a coin, coin. And there's a little boy that was given a coin, and he carries it. He was bullied, and he carries it with him every day to school. Yeah. So you don't have to buy it with the book. You can buy the coin separate. So I have Bentley watches. I've got, a few other things. So those are all available on my website. Wow.
That little coin, and somebody listening might say, that's kind of hokey. My very first time performing professionally, I was at an event, and I was, to say a little nervous, it would be an understatement. I was very nervous. There was an orchestra there. I had chatted with the orchestra leader beforehand. He just went and found a white rock. And he came up to me before the performance, and he handed it to me, and he said, "Here, this is your good luck rock. Keep this with you. You're going to do fine." I did a great job on that gig. There you go. Oh. That can make a big difference in somebody's life. I'm seeing a Bentley and a coin. And
so it says you can do it.
You can do it.
And it's actually a 2-inch, it's 2.5 inches. It's not a small coin. It's not, the size of a quarter.
Yeah. That would make a difference. That rock is still in my bureau.
See?
That was given to me 38 years ago.
Wow.
So I held on to it. Well, we're going to hold on to the memories that you shared with us today, telling us about the trauma that you experienced, both as a child and recently, reminding us that we can get through all of this, and also reminding us how much fun we can have with your Adventures of Bentley series. And we've been speaking to the author, Argyro Graphy. Argyro, thank you so much for being with us.
It was an absolute pleasure and an honor to be on your show. Thank you so much.
We hope you enjoyed our conversation with Argyro. Right now, you're going to hear a great preview of a really wonderful podcast. It's called the Solve It for Kids podcast. It stars Jeff Gagne and our Dean of all things STEM and STEAM, the Admiral of Adventure, Jennifer Swanson.
This is Solve It for Kids.
Hello, my amazing and curious friends. My name is Jennifer, and this is Solve It for Kids, the podcast that gives kids and families a peek inside the real world of scientists, engineers, and experts as they solve problems in their jobs using creativity, cooperation, and critical thinking. And now please welcome to the show my podcast partner, Galactic Space Geek, Jeff Gagne.
Hello, Jennifer! Today is going to be a very interesting show. At least on my side for sure, because I was never one for biology. Like, my body works and I'm just happy with that, so I never really got into studying biology. But our guest today knows tons.
Oh, I'm so excited. So what is the question that she will be solving?
How are you like a dung beetle?
Ooh, how are you like a dung beetle? Oh, this is going to be good. This is going to be so good. Who is our guest today, Jeff?
Today we have Dr. Ann Estes, and she is the Jess and Mildred Fisher Endowed Professor of Biological Sciences at Towson University.
Welcome to the show, Dr. Ann.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here with y'all.
So your question is, this is so cool. How are you like a dung beetle? Are we going to talk about how humans and dung beetles might be similar?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Poop.
Oh, okay. So we have to ask the question we ask everybody. First of all, why dung beetles? If you could study anything, why'd you pick them?
Well, dung beetles are amazing. They are on every continent in the earth except for Antarctica, and that's too cold for me anyway. They have lots of different ways of living. Sometimes you've seen pictures, right, of the rollers, right? They get all the press. Well, we have rollers that live in the poop, and then we have tunnelers that live under the poop. And honestly, do you want to have a lot of poop around? No. I mean, dung beetles do us this huge service by recycling all those nutrients that the host, the animal at first ate stuff, couldn't eat. But really, it's not the dung beetles. The real trick is with the microbes.
Oh. Tell us more. This is small, like even smaller and smaller.
Yeah, the number of stars in your galactic space, right? Well, we've got just as many numbers in our microbial world.
Very true. Very true. We're talking billions or even trillions of microbes in like animals, like a human body, correct?
That's right. So my true love is studying how these crazy things work together, right? Because you think these little invisible microbes, what do? Well, they've driven our whole entire planet from the get-go, and they help us as well inside of our bodies, on our bodies, and every other organism in the world.
Please be sure to join us for the next episode of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. We have two great guests for you. Vicky G. Rogers will be here to celebrate Miss Ruby and the Gigi Squad. And Dr. Colleen Kelly will be here to celebrate her Kids Chemical Solutions comic series. That's the next episode of the show. Want to thank the folks who made the show so wonderful today. Want to thank Argyro Graphy. Please be sure to check out the Adventures of Bentley. Also want to thank Jennifer Swanson and Jeff Gagne for sharing a little preview of the Solve It for Kids podcast. I want to thank my team, Alejandro Doherty, Fatima Khan, Rory Grady, Skylar Strauss. I want to thank my beautiful wife for all the support she gives me. Most of all, we all want to thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. And as always, thank you so very much for taking the time to make the world a better place by reading with your kids. I'll be looking for you in the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast.